Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Zach Hall, and we are continuing my series of trying to learn Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Today we're going to be looking at Chapter 2 of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition core rulebook, looking at ancestries and backgrounds. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we are. I've got the core rulebook for Pathfinder up along with I've got a fillable version of the character sheet available. Downloaded this from qtimes.com because as far as I know, Paizo has not released a fillable version of the 2nd edition character sheet. And right off the bat, there is so much going on, but really because while it seems like, and I mean, I guess the pitch of Pathfinder 2nd Edition is that it is, simplifying 1st Edition, I would imagine and kind of assume. This, it's still way more complicated than the 5th Edition D&D. You've got, interesting how they did ability scores, though. I mean, if they really did kind of what Wizards did with the D&D 5th edition sheet, can't really do that. But so you see, look at this. You've got proficiency added to armor class, dex. So instead of just having a box for AC and kind of relying on you doing the math separately and then just writing armor class down, they've given you all of the spots to mark your stuff and mark how you get to AC, which is just very different than how 5th edition decided to do their sheet. I'm not sure if, this just looks so busy that a player would really need to focus and learn. Really need to focus and learn and take some time just to figure out where everything is. Like, you've got fortitude here. I guess you can be different levels of proficient in your different saving throws. And so you have to have a spot to be able to make your proficiency bonus and, trained, expert, master, legendary? Question mark? Melee, ranged. So there just has to be way more specialization when it comes to training if there's a separation of melee strikes and range strikes. Just has to be. Okay. Let's jump to... ooh, this is not a linked PDF. That kind of sucks. Am I in read mode? Pretty sure I'm in read mode, so I will just scroll. Do. Still in chapter 1. All right, here we go. So yeah, we can I kind of glossed over this in the last video. This is still part of chapter 1, but yeesh. Where's as explanation? They have this like almost, step 4 step. Okay, so they're just telling you in their like kind of step by step, like 1 through 10, how to like where you should be filling in spots. But that's kind of confusing. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if that is super. Like, I started looking for like a legend or something like that, but that's a lot of. The sheet is complicated in and of itself. I don't know if having every step laid out, because you got step 3, step 3, step 3, step 3, step 3. You got a ton of places to mark. It just seems like it might have just been a little bit too much and wasn't. I'm not saying there's a correct way of laying that out, but maybe just could have done that differently. So here we go. Chapter 2, Ancestries and Backgrounds. Hit points, size, speed, ability boosts. Let's see if it will... Can I move this? Just, or hide it. Nope. All right, Adobe, that's fine. This lists the ability scores. Most ancestors provide to still doesn't tell us how much. If you remember a note from last video, one of the questions I had was, what is an ability boost? Is it +1 or +2 to the score? So I'm assuming we'll find out. Languages, traits. Traits. These descriptors have no mechanical benefit, but they're important for determining how certain spells, effects, and other aspects of the game interact with your character. Okay, that'll be interesting. Any other entries in the sidebar represent abilities, senses, and other qualities. All members of the Ancestry manifest. These are omitted for Ancestries with no special rules. Okay. Heritages. I wonder if this is like D&D 5th edition's sub-races. You select a heritage at first level to reflect abilities passed down to you from your ancestors or common among those of your ancestry in the environment where you grew up, you were born or grew up. Yeah. You can only have one heritage and can't change it later. Heritage is not the same as a culture or an ethnicity, though some cultures or ethnicities might have more or fewer members from a particular heritage. So yeah, probably like your difference between like a high elf or a night elf or something like that. Ancestry feats. So ancestry feats. So you get a feat just based on your ancestry, which is cool. Allows you to customize your character. You gain your first ancestry feat at first. You gain another at 5th, 9th, 13th, 17th. Organized by level. As a starting character, you can choose from only first level ancestry feats, but later choices can be made from any feat of your level or lower. So it seems like feats have levels that essentially not only kind of probably give a quick estimation of like their power level, but also probably corresponds to like if it's a 5th level feat, you have to be 5th character level. I'm assuming class level. We haven't seen anything about multi-classing yet. In 5th edition, it works in most things when looking at level as a prerequisite is talking about a specific class level, but I guess for feats it's more your total level, not just alignment, religion. Oh, I accidentally skipped. All right, dwarves. Love this art. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's so great. Oh, check this out. I love this section. You might, and others probably. So it gives you an internal, a possible and widely accepted internal view of yourself and others in your ancestry, and then an external view. That's great. Strive to up because it kind of tells even the other party members, what do your character think of this character? Obviously, you can defer from that, but here's how the world responds to you. So cool. Dwarves, you might strive to uphold your personal honor no matter the situation. Appreciate quality craftsmanship in all forms and insist upon it for all your gear. Don't waver or back down once you set your mind to something. Others probably see you as stubborn, though whether they see this as an asset or detriment changes from one person to the next. Assume you're an expert in matters related to stonework, mining, precious metals, and gems. That's great because they assume, and they might be right, but they might be wrong. Like if you depending on the ancestry and your background and the different feats that you grab, you might not be an expert, but you'll probably be asked, which is very cool. Recognize the deep connection you have with your family, heritage, and friends. That's just really cool. Short and stocky, foot shorter than most humans. All genders pride themselves on the length of their hair, which they often braid in intricate patterns. A long beard is a sign of masculinity and honor, thus a clean-shaven male is considered weak, untrustworthy, or worse. Generally live around 350 years old. Very cool. Ancient surface empire the dwarves once ruled fell long ago, overwhelmed by orc and goblinoids. So that's pretty classic. Today, the dwarves retain many of the qualities that propel their people to greatness, fierceness, gumption, and stubbornness, and endeavors ranging from battle, craftsmanship, to forging ties with family and friends. Mountain sky citadels. Okay, that's cool. Passion for stonework, metalwork, and gem cutting. A clan dagger strapped to their belt. This dagger is forged just before a dwarf's birth and bears the gemstone of their clan. That's just cool. I love that. A parent uses the dagger to cut the infant's umbilical cord, making it the first weapon to taste their blood. That is some kind of epic. Very cool. 10 hit points to start. Okay, should I just start? Should I make a dwarf? Because I like that. This is very cool. Big fan. Yeah, let's just do it. Let me open up a quick notepad and throw it on the screen. That's not large at all. Okay, back, and I've got my text editor just to take some quick notes on kind of stuff as we go. So I have a dwarf, and so I'm going to get HP equals 10 from dwarf. Size medium, that I can just go ahead and put in the 20 feet speed. That is, there is, why did I get doubled up? There is no, in 5th edition, 25 is the, your shorter races, or yeah, shorter races in 5th edition all get 25. 20 feet is pretty slow. Boosts, con, whiz, and a free. Flaw, charisma. And then I get common, and Dwarven. Just putting this in the PDF here, down in the languages. Cool. So I have a trait in, so I have 2 traits, dwarf and humanoid. Interesting. Dark, and then dark vision. And dark vision doesn't have a range, so like in 5th edition, it's normally out to 60 feet, but they're not that qualifier. Interesting. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put dark vision here under perception. Probably where that goes. Oh, why did I lose my 20 feet? Okay, don't know what's going on there. That's fine. Typical dwarf is lawful good or lawful neutral and prefers to worship deities of those allotments. Torag, god of dwarvenkind, is the dwarf's primary deity, although worship of Torag's family members is also common. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and make, where's alignment? Surely it's on here somewhere. There's a spot for it. There it is. Let's go ahead and make me a lawful good. Oh, that is teeny tiny. It's teeny tiny for me too, not just you all. So lawful good alignment. Traits, dwarf, humanoid. Deity, we'll just go ahead and say Torg for ease. We'll Torag, excuse me. We'll figure out if, once we get into deities and classes, if that comes into play. Or I'm not sure what class we'll create. But I'm just really a big fan of these dwarves. Super cool. What should we name him? We'll leave... I had a Ronin in there back as like a default. That's not a super dwarvian name, but we'll be okay. So here's some heritages. Choose one of the following dwarven heritages of first level. Ancient blooded dwarf. Heroes of old could shrug off their enemy's magic, and some of that resistance manifests in you. You gain the call on ancient blood reaction trigger. So this is a reaction. So we learned this icon yesterday. And we get one of those per round. You attempt a saving throw against... so the trigger is a saving throw against a magical effect, but I haven't rolled yet, so I have to determine before I rolled. Gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the triggering saving throw, and until the end of this turn. Interesting. Death Warden Dwarf. Tomb Guardians. If you roll a success on a saving throw against a necromancy effect, you get a critical success instead. If you roll a success on a Death Warden Dwarf, your ancestor have been Tomb Guardians for generations, warding off necromancy. Roll a success on a saving throw against a necromancy effect. You get a critical success instead. It's really cool. Forge Dwarf. Remarkable adaptation to hot environments from ancestors who inhabited blazing deserts or volcanic chambers. Fire resistance equal to half your level, and you treat environmental heat effects as if they were one step less extreme. This is telling me a lot about the game ruling in general of like... It's not just fire resistance, it's fire resistance equal to half your level. So I'm interested in how resistance works in Pathfinder. Because in 5th edition, if you have resistance, you just take half damage. Doesn't matter if you're level 1 or level 20, doesn't matter if the damage is 3 damage or 300, you just take half. Obviously not the case in Pathfinder. Rock Dwarf. Solid as a rock when you plant your feet. +2 circumstance bonus to fortitude or reflex DCs against attempts to shove or trip you. Any effect forced you to move 10 feet or more, you're only moved half distance. That's pretty cool. Poison resistance. Again, kind of this equal half to your level. I wonder if that's just like you take less, like that number... less damage. So if it's 3 damage, which would obviously be huge at lower levels, I would assume. But if by level 20, you only have 10 poison resistance, if it's anything like 5th edition... Excuse me, didn't sleep well last night. If it's anything like 5th edition and folks are putting out like 40, 50... poison damage, that 10 isn't going to do nearly as much, but I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. Each of your successful saving throws against a poison affliction reduces its stage by 2 or by 1 for a virulent. Wow, so poisons is way more complicated. It's not just a condition. It has steps and stages. Okay. So should we go, what should we do? I mean, I like that Ancient Blooded Dwarf gives you this extra reaction, but Rock Dwarf just seems really cool. So we're going to get Rock Dwarf. +2 fort reflex versus shove trip move half distance when pushed. First level, you gain 1 ancestry feat, and you gain an additional ancestry feat every 4 levels. So, wow, look at all these feats that I can pick from. I'm going to read these in kind of more in depth because we're looking at Dwarf, but I'm not going to do this for all 6 ancestries. We'll look through and kind of get a feel for what they can do. Dwarven lore, trained proficiency rank in crafting and religion. Trained in Dwarven lore, so that's where we would fill in kind of one of these blanks. Dwarven weapon familiarity. Your kin have instilled in you an affinity for hard-hitting weapons. You were trained with the battle axe, pick, and warhammer. Again, so it's so specific. It's not just like we're 5th edition. You normally there's a couple of examples of a specific class, subclass, or feat providing very specific proficiencies. But again, this is just so more specific where I'm trained with a battle axe, pick, or warhammer and gain access to all uncommon dwarf weapons. Martial dwarf weapons are simple weapons, and advanced dwarf weapons are martial weapons. Interesting. Okay. Rock Runner. That might be cool for a rock dwarf. Innate connection to stone makes you adept at moving across uneven surfaces. You can ignore difficult terrain caused by rubble or uneven ground. That's really cool. Stone Cunning. Have a knack for noticing even small inconsistencies. +2 perception. Notice unusual stonework. Checks for mechanical traps inside, made of stone or hidden within stone. Seems really circumstantial, but very on brand. If you aren't using the seek action or searching, the GM automatically rolls a secret check for you to notice unusual stonework anyway. And this doesn't gain the circumstance. This check doesn't gain the circumstance bonus, and it takes a -2 circumstance penalty. So already, by looking at this, even though we haven't gotten to the GM or even really the details of how to play the game, it seems like Pathfinder's already giving permission for the GM to roll secret rolls for the players, as opposed to using something like passive perception that honestly I'm not a huge fan of, because it just adds more work to the GM in 5th edition, where the players automatically assume, hey, I've told you my passive perception. I don't really need, I now assume, especially for high perception characters like a real spec'd out ranger, hey, I have a passive perception of 20. I expect you to tell me if anything shows up. Well, that doesn't always happen. Let's just be real. It doesn't always happen. DM or GM forgets. Unburned Iron. Comfortably wear massive suits of armor. Ignore a reduction to your speed from any armor you wear. That is a huge bonus. Anytime you're taking a penalty to your speed for some other reason, such as encumbered or for a spell, deduct 5 feet from that penalty. Vengeful Hatred. That is very cool. You can get a feat based on the background and flavor and the world building that Pathfinder has done So you can choose an ancestral foe, Drow, Duergar, which is like basically Underdark dwarves, giant, or orc. Interesting that goblinoids weren't on there, since according to flavor, the flavor text on the previous page, that's okay. I think I'm gonna take Unburdened Iron, because that's just cool. So where? All right, so ancestry feat. Don't have a special first. That might just be for other ancestries. Heritage, though, I'm gonna take Unburdened Iron. I don't know if people normally do this, but I'm gonna add some notes. No armor speed reduction. I'll just put that for now. So we got Boulder Roll, prerequisites Rock Runner. So yeah, so there is a kind of an element of a skill tree here. That if you looked ahead and you're like, oh, that Boulder Roll action, 2 action move or ability, 2 action ability, I guess would be the correct term. I really like that. Your dwarven build allows you to push forward. Super cool, but I have to have Rock Runner beforehand, which all of a sudden kind of makes you, instead of just looking at things on its own, because in 5th edition, there isn't really that, especially with feats, with this kind of level of customization, there's not that level, like, that many prerequisite requirements, really, besides level, class, that kind of thing. But if my 5th edition brain, I looked at the Rock Runner feat and said, ignore difficult terrain caused by rubble or uneven ground, acrobatic skill to balance on narrow surfaces, super situational. If we end up doing a like forest campaign, or really urban campaign, or I don't know, an underwater campaign, or adventure, something like that wouldn't really come into play almost at all. And so I would say, like, I probably wouldn't take that feat. That feat is really specific, and you'd really have to have like an idea of flavor or character background that you would want to create in order to get that. Not the case, because at 5th level I could get Boulder Roll, which is very, very cool. And it's only one of 2 5th level ancestry feats. Everybody else is at 5th level. I'm assuming you have to take a heritage feat. Or ancestry feat, excuse me. I'm assuming you have to take an ancestry feat at 5th level. You can't just take any other feat. So everybody else besides a Rock Runner is getting Dwarven Weapon Cunning at 5th level. Which, I mean, is fine. Like, when you critically hit using a Battle Axe, Pick, Warhammer, or Dwarf weapon, you apply a weapon's critical specialization effect. So if you're special, okay, I don't know what that means yet, but really cool. But not as cool as forcing an enemy to move back just by moving into their space. Very cool. I like that. Stonewalker. Here's a 13th level feat that requires... I guess you could, at 5th level, take one of these feats, which is why there's not as many 5th level. Makes sense. Very cool. Really a big deal. I'm just loving this a lot. Look at this. Here's the Dwarven, his clan dagger with his clan's gemstone. Using a war pick. He's got a lantern. Love it. So cool. Dwarven villagers tend to work as treasure hunters or sell swords. They often leave their citadels and subterranean cities, so they do live, at least under the surface. Search for wealth to enrich their homeland or reclaim long-lost dwarven treasures or lands taken by the enemies of their kin. Typical dwarven backgrounds include acolyte, artisan, merchant, miner, and warrior. Dwarves excel at many of the martial classes, such as barbarian, fighter, monk, and ranger, but they also make excellent clerics and druids. Great to just have that feedback for a brand new character. You're like, what should I be? I really want to be a dwarf. I don't really care about what class I am. What would a dwarven adventurer be? There you go, right there. All right, elves. You know what? Before I move on to elves, should I take a step back into Chapter 1 to take a closer look at how to determine ability scores? Yes. Let's take a quick look back at Chapter 1 to look at what point do we... determine ability scores until level 6, or step 6. Now that you've made the main mechanical choices about your character, it's time to finalize. Hang on. 4 more ability boosts to your character's ability scores, choosing a different ability score for each, and increasing that ability score by 2. So an ability boost must be a +2. And I just get to do that 4 more times. Man, you're going to have some really high scores. Each boost adds 2 to the base score of 10, and each flaw subtracts 2. You should have no ability score lower than 8 or higher than 18. Wow, okay, so all this is +2. And -2. So you don't randomize it at all, do you? It's just +2s and -2s. Is that right? You don't roll, it's just off of 10? That must be how they do it. Otherwise, you couldn't do +4 ability boosts to everything. So you don't do any kind of rolling for ability scores at all. Which is interesting. I wonder if there's I wonder if that's true in Pathfinder 1st edition. I've heard kind of the players that have been playing D&D for a long time talk about the idea of I hear folks like Matt Colville has a fantastic YouTube channel on learning how to run D&D specifically, but it all applies to Pathfinder too. He would talk about how back in the day that when folks would roll their ability scores, they would roll your 3d6, none of this 4d6, drop the lowest one, just 3d6, add them together, and you would go in order. So the first time you roll, that's your strength. Second time you roll, that's your dex. So that must have been around for at least maybe even D&D 1st edition, 2nd edition. So I wonder if that's just new to Pathfinder 2nd edition, that there isn't a random roll, or you don't get to roll for your ability scores. Interesting. And I don't see any variant rules. Okay, well, there you go. Answer to that question. We don't roll for... So we can go ahead and say that based off a base of 10, Ronan has a 10 strength and dexterity, 12 con, 10 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 8 charisma. And we still... does my text editor... So, still need to add this. Oh, am I in... Might not let me do it because I'm probably in... Okay. So just remind me to do that later. I need to add a free boost. I don't know what class I'm going to build yet, so we'll see. So elves, let's read this. You might and others probably. You might carefully curate your relationships. Phew. You might carefully curate your relationships with people with shorter lifespans, either keeping a careful emotional distance or resigning yourself to outliving them. I mean, very true and real consequence of having very extended life. Do they say private peoples? Doesn't say how long they actually. It'll probably say. I was gonna see if they have a. Lives around 600 years old, almost twice as long as a dwarf, which is not nothing. I mean, an extra 250 to 300 years is a long time. It's a whole other lifetime for a dwarf. But it's interesting that it's the elves who have chosen to kind of like be careful about how they create relationships with younger ancestries and other people. Interesting. You might adopt specialized or obscure interests simply for the sake of mastering them. You got 600 years to master something, might as well do it. You might have features such as eye color, skin tone, hair, or mannerisms that reflect the environment in which you live. I wonder if that means that these elves are a little more realistic in that if you live underground, you would have lighter, pale skin as opposed to darker skin, because that's not how melanin works. Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons, looking at you. Others probably focus on your appearance, either admiring your grace or treating you as if you're physically fragile. Assume you practice archery, cast spells, fight demons, and have perfected one or more fine arts. Again, might be a totally accurate assumption. Worried that you privately look down on them or feel like you're condescending and aloof. Physically taller than humans, fragile grace, long features, sharp pointy ears, wide and almond-shaped eyes with vibrant colored pupils make up the entire visible portion of the eye, so there's no like whites of their eyes for elves, which is cool. Gradually adapt to an environment and their companions and often take on physical traits reflecting their surroundings. An elf who has dwelled in primeval yeah, why am I struggling with that word? Primeval forests for centuries, for example, might exhibit verdant hair and gnarled fingers, while one who's lived in a desert might have golden pupils and skin. Very cool. Physical adulthood around 20, fully mature by other elves still closer to the passing of their first century. Once they've experienced more, held several occupations, and outlived a generation of shorter-lived people. Deep, rich, and on the decline, elvish culture. Peaked millennia ago, long before they fled the world to escape a great calamity. They've since returned, but rebuilding is no easy task. So elves built the world in which our game plays in, left thousands of years ago. Where did they go? Other planes, potentially. A different continent on the same planet, potentially. And they've now returned. Inborn patience and intellectual curiosity make elves excellent sages, philosophers, and wizards. Societies are built upon their inherent sense of wonder and knowledge. Yeah. Many are chaotic good. Yeah. 6 hit points versus a dwarf's 10. Medium, size 30, so 30 seems to be kind of a basic, kind of like your standard level, which is the same in 5th edition, which again tells me how much of a negative, like you're trading hit points and a bonus in like constitution essentially for that like dip in speed. Low light vision, which is not the same as dark vision apparently. You can see in dim light as if it were bright light instead of no light being dim light. Cool. And you ignore the concealed condition due to dim light. Cool. Arctic Dwarf, Arctic Elf, Cavern Elf. You get dark vision if you really want that. Seer Elf. Cast the Detect Magic cantrip at will. Wow. +1 bonus to checks to identify magic and to decipher writing of magical nature. Wow. That's huge. Whisper Elf. Wow. 30-foot cone to seek instead of 60-foot cone instead of 30. +2 bonus to locate undetected creatures that you can hear within 30. Very cool. Woodland Elf. Climbing trees, vines, and other foliage. Half speed on a success. Full speed on a critical success. You can always use the take cover action when you are within forest terrain to gain cover. Very cool. Kind of specific. But like if you just wanted a classic woodland elf ranger, I would take that in a heartbeat. Prerequisites, at least 100 years old. That's great. So one of my problems in trying to create a 5th edition character is like, how do you represent a character that has lived a life before adventuring? It's so hard to kind of do that mechanically without the options. Like you can do middle-aged characters. One of my favorite PCs that I have run a 5th edition game for, one of my best friends, John, ran a kind of middle-aged half-orc. But the problem with that is that if he was a former adventurer who settled down, that got dragged back into adventure life, and we kind of excuse it as like, okay, like the idea there kind of mechanically is you lost levels as you kind of settled down, like you're just out of practice, and so by the time that the adventure started, you're back to kind of like a level 1 rogue, which is what he was playing, half-orc rogue, which is dope. But this is such a cool feat because you get... That's so great. During your daily preparations, you can reflect upon your life experiences to gain trained proficiency rank in one skill of your choice. You can't use it as a prerequisite for a skill increase or a permanent character option like a feat, sure. It lasts until you prepare again. That's so cool. Like, so if you wanted to play a 200-year-old elf who was, got bored with doing everything that they did in the elvish capital or whatever, they're still a level 1 adventurer, but, I spent 30 years as the diplomat to such and such country. I'm going to focus and get a bonus to my diplomacy rolls. I spent 50 years as a guide, kind of moving folks between places in the city. I'm going to get a bonus to my perception. Dope. Super cool. Elven lore, elven weapon familiarity. It seems like, I wonder if all ancestries have a feat for their like specific weapon. So longbows, composite longbows, longswords, rapiers, short bows, and composite short bows. Cool. Forlorn, watching your friends age and die fills you with moroseness that protects you against harmful emotions. You could play an edgelord elf that, I'm so depressed from watching everybody I love die that you can't hurt me anymore. Oh my gosh. Nimble elf, +5 feet speed, otherworldly magic, 1 cantrip as an arcane innate spell at will. And the cantrip is heightened to a spell level equal to half your level rounded up. Very cool. Unwavering Mien. Mystic control and meditations allow you to resist external influences on your consciousness. Sure. Yeah. Whenever you're affected by a mental effect that lasts at least 2 rounds, you can reduce it by 1 round. Very cool. Ageless Patience. Elf Step. You could step 5 feet twice. Oh, as an action. One action ability. Very cool. Expert longevity. Man, I really want to play like a middle-aged 300-year-old elf. Man, this is so cool. This is exactly why I wanted to learn Pathfinders, because there's so many cool built-in mechanical options that make a difference. Like it's huge and allows you to actually see mechanical benefits and see the character you have envisioned in your brain on the character sheet, which doesn't always happen with 5th edition, just to be honest. Like, you have to kind of build that into how you role play, but at the same time, maybe you don't want to role play heavily, or you're socially anxious and you're just excited to be at a table or playing online with other human beings. Never mind, attempting an accent or working in backstory to just your normal role play conversation with characters. Maybe you're a the Pathfinder Society player, and you go play with a large group of people at your local game store once a week or every other week or whenever you can. Just being able to have that, like, I have an idea of a 300-year-old elf who maybe he's a ranger or maybe a wizard. He's done everything he can think of. They finally want to like leave elvish society and go on this thing that they've seen other elves do for hundreds of years before and just never had the guts to go and try adventuring, and now they can. It'd be so cool. Very cool. All right, gnomes. You might embrace learning and hop from one area of study to another without warning. Rush into action before fully taking stock of the entire situation. Speak, think, and move quickly, and lose patience with those who can't keep up. Speedy. Quick gnomes. Others probably appreciate your enthusiasm and the energy with which you approach new situations. Struggle to understand your motivations or adapt to your rapid changes of direction. See you as unpredictable, flighty, unreliable, or even reckless. Very cool art. Love this like blue hair. Oh, look at his eyebrows too. They're blue also. So could be painted on, but like they've done it all. Very cool. Wide range of natural skin, hair, and eye colors. There you go. Oh, interesting. Okay. Hang on. Going back to this. Always hungry for new experiences. Gnomes constantly wander, both mentally and physically, attempting to stave off a terrible ailment that threatens all of their people. This affliction, the bleaching, strikes gnomes who fail to dream, innovate, and take in new experiences. In the gnome's absence of crucial magical essence from the first world, gnomes latch onto a source of localized magic where they live, typically primal magic, as befits their fey lineage. Fey lineage, interesting. But this isn't enough to avoid the bleaching unless they supplement this magic with new experiences. The bleaching slowly drains the color, literally, from gnomes, and it plunges those affected in states of deep depression that eventually claim their lives. Very few gnomes survive this scourge, becoming deeply morose and wise survivors known as bleachlings. Wow, that's so cool. I absolutely love that. Gnomes typically reach maturity at the age of 18. Can theoretically live to any age if they can stave off the bleaching indefinitely, but in practice, gnomes rarely live longer than 400 years. Every ancestry we've hit lives in centuries, which is going to make... And dwarves, elves, and now gnomes halfway through. 8, small, 25. I wonder if it's because they're not as generally like wide and stocky as dwarves. Where dwarves get 20 instead of 25. You get 3 languages, Gnomon and Sylvan, to reflect that Fey lineage. Very cool. Low light vision. Chameleon Gnome, so you can slowly change the vibrancy and exact color of your hair and skin. Ooh, so that's almost like what was it called in Harry Potter? Crap, I forget what that was called. But that's very cool. You can mechanically give that a +2 stealth checks. Interesting. Fey touch, so you can really like lean into the Fey lineage, where you get to choose a cantrip from the primal spell list. Cool, cool, cool. Sensate Gnome. You see all colors is brighter, hear all sounds is richer. Special sense, imprecise scent with a range of 30 feet. You can use your sense of smell to determine the exact location of a creature. GM will usually double the range if you're downwind. That's really cool that they're kind of giving a GM a kind of like wink nod and telling the player like, oh, hey, can I move downwind? And you give me double the range of that. And the GM might go, huh, I don't know. And I was like, so in the book. Cool. Love it. Umbral Gnome. Ooh, Dark Fey. Underground Deep Gnomes, also known as Sverfnblin. Complete dark vision. Cool. Wellspring Gnome. Primal magic of your Fey lineage. Choose Arcane, Divine, or Occult. So those are kind of the 3 options for magic. 5th edition, it seems just to be Arcane and Divine. Occult is a very cool option. I'm excited to dive into that more as we keep doing this series. And cast a spell, so get a cantrip. Very cool. Animal Accomplice as a feat. Dope. And they act as a familiar. Most gnomes choose animals with a burrow speed. Super cool. Burrow Illusionist. You can ask questions and receive messages from animals that have a burrow speed. Fey Fellowship, First World Magic, Gnome Obsession. Pick a lore skill. You have a trained proficiency in that skill. At 2nd level, you gain expert proficiency in that chosen lore, as well as the lore granted by your background. At 7th, you get Master, and at 15th, Legendary. Super cool. All right, Gnome Weapon Familiarity is blades with curved or peculiar shapes. You're trained with the glaive and the kukri. That's so cool. Illusion Sense. Very cool. You can lean in more into this speaking with burrowing animals. I don't know what a focus point is. But look at her. That's so cool. Very cool. Adventuring gnomes often claim mementos. Gnomes often consider the merchant, entertainer, nomad backgrounds. In addition, animal whisperer, barkeep, gambler, and tinker backgrounds are particularly appropriate. Connection to magic makes spellcasting classes particularly thematic. Druid or primal sorcerer, though wellspring gnomes might choose others. Awesome. Goblin. Oh my gosh. Look at this thing. Has a fork and a spoon. That pickle is huge. Wow. All right. We're close to hitting the hour mark. So I'm going to kind of try to go through these quicker. Strive to prove you have a place among other civilized peoples, perhaps even to yourself. Fight tooth and nail, sometimes literally to protect yourself and your friends from danger. Lighten the heavy emotional burdens others carry with antics and pranks. Okay, pranksters. All right. Others probably work to ensure you don't accidentally or intentionally set too many things on fire. Assume you can't or won't read. Interesting. Wonder how you survive given your ancestry's typical gastronomic choices, reckless behavior, and love of fire. So, goblin alchemists. Or like sorcerers that really want fire magic. Bards, maybe. And depends on if they get a boost of charisma, so you could do bard. Charhide, Iron Gut. That's so funny. Razor Tooth, Jaws unarmed attack that deals 1d6 piercing damage. Holy frick. Wow. Snow Goblin and Unbreakable Goblin. You gain 10 hit points from your ancestry instead of 6. And you reduce falling damage by as though you'd fallen half the distance. Dope. Burn it. Fire fascinates you. Get a bonus to damage for fire damage. Yeah, you could really go heavy on that theme if you want to, which is awesome. Junk Tinkerer. You sing annoying goblin songs, distracting your phones with silly and repetitive lyrics. Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Goblin Bard would be something. Annoying. Like, I feel like most bards that I've kind of run into or run in 5th edition is kind of like the happy-go-lucky, positive, encouraging. Excuse me. The encouraging style bard. But wow, yeah. Plus just the annoying one. So much fun. Very sneaky. Almost every goblin is an adventurer, surviving life on the edge. Acrobat, criminal, entertainer, gladiator, hunter, and street urchin backgrounds. Consider playing as an alchemist or a bard, since many goblin love songs. Yeah, cool, very cool. Goblins are often also rogues. Yeah, that makes sense. Really cool. Really cool. Halfling. Uncanny luck. Okay. Excitable and easygoing. Opportunists. Joy over violence. Rarely lose their sense of humor. You might get along well with a wide variety of people and enjoy meeting new friends. Find it difficult to resist indulging your curiosity even when you know it's going to lead to trouble. Hold a deep personal hatred of the practice of slavery and devote yourself to freeing those who still labor against their will. Interesting. Cool. Others probably appreciate your ability to always find a silver lining or something to laugh about, no matter how dire the situation. Think you bring good luck with you. That would be interesting to kind of play with. Underestimate your strength, endurance, and fighting prowess. Very cool. I like how they really separated halflings and gnomes in both like appearance and just kind of, these are more like short humans, where gnomes are almost like ancient fae who just also happen to be short and have 4 limbs. 6 hit points, 25 speed, ability fall strength. Cool. Gutsy, stave off fear. Hillock halfling. When you gain hit points overnight, add your level to the hit points regained. Interesting. Okay. So that just told me in Pathfinder, you do not automatically regain all of your hit points when resting overnight. That is different from 5th edition, for sure. For sure. Okay. Keen eyes. Your eyes are sharp, allowing you to make out small details or even invisible creatures. +2 bonus when using seek action, find hidden or undetected creatures. Nomadic halfling, 2 additional languages, and you can take the multilingual feat. Cool. Twilight halfling, secret axe under the concealing cover of dusk. Low light vision. Wildwood halfling, deep in a jungle or forest. Ignore difficult terrain from trees, foliage, and undergrowth. Very cool. Distracting shadows. You can use medium creatures or larger as cover for hide and sneak actions. Nice. Halfling lore. Halfling luck. Your happy-go-lucky nature. Move. Makes it seem like misfortune avoids you. You can re-roll a triggering check, but you must use the new result even if it's worse. Okay. Once per day. Love that frequency too. Nice. Halfling sling staff. Ugh, that's cool. I want that. I'm so excited to get deeper into this book and look at like things like equipment. I just want to see more varied, even if it's like the same thing. Like it's a 20, like you can use ammunition for 20-foot range, 1d6 bludgeoning damage, or whack people with it for 1d6 5-foot range. Just having the like kind of, but like the fact that you have to be a halfling to get trained in it, it's great. And because weapon and all these proficiencies are so specific, you would be at a disservice for another ancestry to try to use that weapon, because it's so important. It's going to be end up so important to be proficient in what you're doing, and the lists are so small, at least from an ancestry. Titan slinger. So if you really wanted to lean into the sling, you could. Very cool. Unfettered. Used to be, you were pressed into service, but you've escaped, and you can now roll a success. You get a critical success whenever you roll a success on an escape. Very cool. Watchful. Love this guy. Ooh, that looks good. I haven't eaten yet today. I'm hungry. Humans. You might strive to achieve greatness, either in your own right or on the behalf of a cause. Seek to understand your purpose in the world. Cherish your relationships with friends and family. Just looked at the art. Holy crap, is this guy cool? I want to be friends with him. Others probably respect your flexibility, your adaptability, and in most cases, your open-mindedness. Distrust your intentions, fearing you seek only power or wealth. Aren't sure what to expect from you, are hesitant to assume your intentions. Oh, here we go. We have a half-elf and half-orcs. They are not... They're ethnicities, but not necessarily like a sub... what have these been called? Heritages. They're not a heritage. It's just you create a half-elf character by selecting the half-elf heritage at first level, and this gives you access to elf and half-elf ancestry feats in addition to human ancestry feats. So it is a heritage of humans. Interesting. Half-elf, half-orc. Excuse me. Skilled heritage, versatile heritage. And I'm sure there's, yeah. Haughty obstinance. Cool. Love the idea. Oh, here's the... Oh, man, she's a badass. I would not want to meet her in a back alley. She's scary as frick. So, half-elf ancestry feats. You can only take this feat at first level, and you can't retrain out of this feat or into this feat. Very cool. Love that idea. Monstrous Peacemaker. Man, that's so cool. Like, the idea... Your dual human and orc nature have given you a unique perspective, allowing you to bridge the gap between humans and many other intelligent creatures in the world. +1 circumstance to diplomacy checks. Incredible. I love it. Absolutely. Half-orc, especially if, like, regardless of where you lived, you were probably shunned. But this gives you the opportunity to turn that into a positive, to be able to work towards a peaceful resolution. Instead of just being like, ooh, I'm a half-orc, I don't have a home, and I bust heads everywhere. So cool. Gain temporary hit points equal to your constitution modifier when you bring a foe to 0. Dope. Super dope. Alright. Probably hit an hour. So here are all the backgrounds. Acolyte, Acrobat, Animal Whisperer. Barkeep is cool. Barrister. Like a lawyer? Dope. Oh, you get 2 ability boosts from most of these backgrounds. That's insane. So many boosts. Bounty hunter, charlatan, criminal detective. Ooh, okay. That's loving this like dead wolf head. Emissary. You could do a half orc emissary and take that diplomat feat. And, you know, maybe you're a cleric or a monk, or like you could be a fighter or a champion or something like that. But that's so cool. Farmhand, field medic, fortune teller, gambler, guard, herbalist, hermit, hunter, laborer, martial, disciple, merchant, miner, noble, nomad, prisoner, sailor, scholar, scout, street urchin, tinkerer, warrior. Oh, wow. What in God's name is happening here? Oof. Oof. Yikes. Excellent. Sounds amazing. Okay. I'm doing this rock dwarf. We need to pick a rock dwarf. Gambler would be cool. I'm going to go Tinkerer. Which means I get a boost to Dexterity or Intelligence, and one is a free ability. I'm going to take that boost. And then I'm going to add myself another free that we'll wait and see. Might end up using that for Dex. Languages. Okay. Oh, look at this. I was about to move past it, and I didn't. Sign language and reading lips. Language entry for most characterless languages they use to communicate in spoken words. However, you might know the signed version of a language or know how to read lips. You can learn these by taking the sign language and read lips skill feats. Dang it, guys. Gang, team, y'all, just frick. That's awesome. Representation matters, and whether it is someone who wants to explore that potential, that aspect of being, of humanhood, of personhood, or if someone wants to see themselves reflected in the world, choose to take that aspect of themselves into game. The fact that there is a mechanical way of doing that and gives notes for the GM on how to handle that, and there's even some like use mechanically for that, is just epic. So cool. So cool. I am excited by that. Obviously, Paizo and the book has been so inclusive up until now, but that is just, it's one paragraph, spell it out really quickly, allow people to have some flexibility at the table. But if you are creating a character who is deaf, hard of hearing, or unable to speak, discuss with your GM whether it makes sense for your character to know sign language or lip reading. If so, your GM might allow you to select one of those feats for free, even if you don't meet the prerequisites to represent your character concept. That's the whole game. That's it. That's the whole point. Free feat in order for you to see representation that matters to you in the game with actual benefits and ways to see that on the character sheet, which again is not something that 5th edition does extremely well. It is really quick and really easy, I think. Once you kind of understand what's happening, it's really easy to go through the steps, and there's not nearly as many. Roll some dice, add a couple bonuses from your class, maybe one from your race, bang, bang, boom, you're ready to go. This is definitely a level up in the time-intensive requirement in order to kind of put everything together, but you can come up with the actual character concept that makes sense for who the character you want to play, and see that reflected on the character sheet, which is epic. So cool. That's going to be it for today. we've kind of hit our limit for what I've imagined these videos would be. We've pretty much that we have covered and looked at chapter 2. We have started building our rock dwarf tinkerer, and we're gonna see next video. We're gonna look at the classes. If you have ideas on what class you would like our rock dwarf tinkerer to be, you can let me know in the comments of this video. You can reach out to me on Twitter at @ZachHall_. And looking forward to seeing you next time.